One morning, you notice a faint, nagging ache beneath your left shoulder blade. It's nothing severe, more like a subtle pressure than sharp pain. You tell yourself it's probably just from sleeping in an odd position or lifting something the wrong way. But over the next few days, the feeling intensifies. You shrug it off, not wanting to make a fuss. Weeks later, you're hit by a sudden wave of weakness that practically knocks you off your feet. By the time you realize this might be serious, you're in the emergency room, facing a major health crisis you never saw coming. This scenario isn't some rare exception. It's the secret reality many people experience in the weeks leading up to a life-altering health event, be it a heart attack, a stroke, or another critical episode, yet most don't connect the dots until it's too late to act. Here's the surprising truth: our bodies often send us unmistakable signals well in advance. These signs can surface in small, everyday changes, like slight aches, fluctuating energy levels, or even unexplainable shifts in mood. Yet because none of these symptoms seem serious on their own, they're easy to write off as normal aging, minor stress, or just bad luck. The tragedy is that these clues can be our final warnings. Overlook them, and you risk a sudden major crisis. But pay attention, and you might buy yourself precious time to make simple home adjustments that keep you safe. Imagine how differently things could turn out if you recognized these subtle hints. Think about being able to sleep soundly tonight, secure in the knowledge that you've addressed those creeping red flags before they spiral into something worse. Today, we're going to walk through the warning signals people tend to feel weeks before a major health event, and the practical, home-friendly steps you can take to address them. You'll see how ordinary, everyday sensations can sometimes be the last yellow light before serious trouble. And the most important tip is saved for the end, because it's the one almost everyone underestimates, yet it might be the deciding factor in whether you get to celebrate another decade of birthdays. Because no matter your age, 65, 75, even 85, you deserve to live with a feeling of confidence in your own body. These signals aren't a sentence to doom, they're a roadmap to prevention if you know how to read them. So let's dig into why this matters so critically, and what you need to look out for in your daily life. We're at a point in history where people live longer than ever before, but longer doesn't always mean healthier. Medical research shows that close to half of individuals who suffer a major event like a heart attack experience warning symptoms in the preceding weeks, symptoms they often ignore. Some notice an odd tightness across the chest that appears only when they're climbing stairs. Others feel an uncharacteristic fatigue that doesn't get better, no matter how many nights of rest they get. Yet instead of taking even small steps, like monitoring their breathing more carefully at home, they chalk it up to just getting older. It's a lethal misconception. Why is this so urgent? Because one fall, one misstep, one unnoticed complication can abruptly flip your world upside down. Many major health catastrophes strike without immediate drama, no classic Hollywood chest clutching. Instead, they unfold quietly over time, like a slow leak in a garden hose. Day after day, week after week, that leak gets bigger, but the water still trickles, so nobody notices. Then, in an instant, everything bursts. The tragedy isn't just that the event happened. It's that the signs were there, gently waving a red flag all along. So let's go straight to the heart of the matter. Over the next several minutes, we'll break down 4 commonly overlooked pre-event signals you need to pay attention to. Then we'll move on to the most shocking truth of all, one that often remains hidden until it's too late. Each indicator is accompanied by a simple, realistic tip you can apply at home. You don't need fancy equipment or endless doctor appointments to take action. Sometimes, all it takes is a small change to your morning routine, a new daily check, or a slight tweak in the way you move. These everyday strategies might be the difference between continuing your life as usual and facing a life-threatening crisis head-on. Let's explore. First signal, an unusual, lingering fatigue. We all get tired. But there's a special kind of fatigue that can crop up a few weeks before a serious health event, a weariness that no amount of coffee, naps, or restful nights can seem to fix. It feels different from your typical, "I had a busy day," exhaustion. Maybe you notice that simply walking to the mailbox leaves you short of breath, or you find it harder to concentrate on a single task. Sometimes, people describe it as a heaviness, as if invisible weights are strapped to their ankles. Why it matters. Your body is like a finely tuned engine, and fatigue is one of the earliest signals that something might be off in its internal workings. For instance, certain heart conditions can reduce how effectively your blood circulates, leading to decreased oxygen throughout your body. That's why you might feel weaker or notice your legs tiring easily. Meanwhile, chronic issues like diabetes or hidden infections might also leave you feeling persistently drained. If this unusual fatigue creeps in over a few weeks, it's time to pay attention. Potential consequences of ignoring it. Some individuals assume this is just part of getting older. But the real danger is that it becomes your new normal. If you ignore persistent fatigue, you might keep pushing your body harder than it can handle. That pressure can lead to more severe problems, a sudden spike in blood pressure, an erratic heartbeat, or worse. A real-life example. Consider Ellen, 72, who spent her mornings walking in the local park. Over the course of a month, she noticed she couldn't finish her usual circuit. Each day, her distance got shorter. Ellen figured she just needed more rest. 2 weeks later, she collapsed in her kitchen from what turned out to be severe anemia combined with a looming heart issue. She later learned that the exhaustion was the first sign. Had she done a simple home check, like monitoring her heart rate or being more mindful of her shortness of breath, she might have spotted the decline earlier. Your home-based step. Don't accept vague, prolonged fatigue as normal. Each morning, mentally rate your energy on a scale of 1 to 10. If you notice it's consistently dropping lower than usual over the span of a week, especially if it stays that way, consider taking practical, small-scale actions like pacing your chores, adding a few iron-rich foods to your meals, or using a simple at-home pulse oximeter to check your oxygen levels. They're widely available and easy to use. Second signal, strange chest or upper body discomfort. You don't always get classic chest pain before a heart attack. Sometimes it's a dull ache in the upper back, a tingling sensation around the collarbone, or a subtle pressure on one side of the chest that seems to come and go. These annoyances might mimic something like muscle strain. You twist your torso and say, maybe I slept wrong. But if the feeling lingers, changes pattern, or intensifies under mild exertion, it may be your heart or circulatory system calling for help. Why it matters. The heart needs constant oxygen and nutrient flow. Narrowing arteries or other cardiovascular issues can cause partial blockages that signal distress. But if the block isn't fully obstructed, you won't get that dramatic, someone squeezing my chest, sensation everyone thinks of. Instead, you might sense fleeting discomfort or even a tingling in the shoulder or jaw. Potential consequences of ignoring it. If you keep attributing that weird chest pressure to probably a sore muscle, you can miss the last opportunity to respond in a timely way. When the problem finally becomes acute, it could escalate into a full-blown heart event or even lead to heart failure. A real-life example. Take Ray, a 69-year-old who used to do light gardening every afternoon. One week, he felt a faint tightness spread across his chest whenever he lifted a watering can. He chalked it up to too much yard work. Eventually, that tightness struck him while he was just picking up mail. By the time he was rushed to the hospital with a heart attack, doctors said he had likely been developing a serious issue for weeks, one that started with subtle signals every time he watered his plants. Your home-based step. Listen to your body's whispers. If you sense discomfort anywhere in your chest or upper torso, do a quick self-check, gently press around the area, stretch, and see if it's truly muscular. If the discomfort seems internal or recurs under light activity, consider simple, everyday measures like pausing more often during tasks, keeping track of exactly when and how the discomfort arises, and ensuring you stay hydrated to support circulation. Avoid abrupt heavy lifting at home until you feel confident the pain has subsided or that you've identified a harmless cause. Quick journaling, just a few lines to note the time and nature of the discomfort, can reveal a pattern if it's serious. Third signal, unexplained shortness of breath. Walking up a flight of stairs never used to wind you, but now you're gasping at the top. Or maybe you feel a sudden breathlessness even while seated, almost as if the air in the room got heavier. This can start out mild, only surfacing when you do something slightly more active than usual. Why it matters. Shortness of breath is often connected to heart and lung function. When your heart struggles to pump effectively, fluid can back up in the lungs, making normal breathing harder. Alternatively, lung issues like mild pneumonia or early-stage chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, might lurk without a high fever or dramatic cough. The body is trying to say, we're working harder just to keep you going. Overlooking it could allow a significant problem to sneak up on you. Potential consequences of ignoring it. Left unaddressed, persistent breathlessness can morph into a full-blown crisis, like sudden fluid accumulation in the lungs or severely reduced oxygen to the brain. Many severe episodes happen in everyday situations, such as gardening or walking the dog, simply because the person believed they were just a bit out of shape. A real-life example. Evelyn, a 77-year-old retiree, began avoiding her usual monthly outings with friends because the walk from the parking lot to the cafe left her breathless. She secretly feared she was becoming frail. In reality, she had a progressive lung infection that, while initially mild, worsened over time. She didn't notice how quickly it advanced until she nearly fainted trying to climb the stairs at home. Catching that breathlessness in its earlier phase could have allowed her to rest more, adapt her daily schedule, and manage her lungs better. Your home-based step. If you're regularly feeling short of breath over a few weeks, practice a simple breathing exercise each morning. Sit on the edge of your bed and inhale through your nose for a count of 4, then exhale slowly for a count of 4. Assess how easy or hard this feels from day to day. Notice if mild household activities, like folding laundry or walking to the mailbox, make you unusually winded. If they do, consider practical changes such as breaking tasks into smaller steps, spacing out chores to prevent exertion spikes, and staying mindful of ventilation, keeping a window cracked or using a fan to ensure fresh air circulation. Fourth signal, disturbed sleep and unusual nighttime sensations. Weeks before a serious event, many people report odd changes in their sleep patterns, waking up repeatedly at night, feeling restless with no clear reason, or experiencing new, unsettling dreams or nightmares. Some even notice sensations like tingling in the legs or an unshakable sense of unease that keeps them awake. Why it matters. Quality sleep is vital for healing and maintaining stable blood pressure, heart rate, and mental health. When the body is fighting a developing health threat, it often disrupts your normal sleep cycle. Hormonal imbalances, fluid shifts in the body, or even subtle nerve signals can all combine to give you restless nights. Potential consequences of ignoring it. Chronic poor sleep can weaken the immune system, elevate stress hormones, and strain your cardiovascular system. This makes you even more vulnerable to the looming issue. Over time, what starts as mild insomnia could spiral into an overall decline in well-being, leaving you less equipped to handle an actual crisis. A real-life example. Robert, 68, never had trouble sleeping. But for about 3 weeks, he started waking at 3 a.m. with a racing heartbeat. He assumed it was anxiety, maybe from the news or everyday worries, so he coped by reading until he felt tired enough to sleep again. The pattern continued until one night the palpitations wouldn't calm down. He ended up in urgent care, discovering he had a significant arrhythmia, abnormal heart rhythm, that had been silently developing. Your home-based step. Try a simple bedtime wind-down method. For 20 to 30 minutes before sleeping, dim the lights, avoid bright screens, and do something calming like gentle stretches or listening to soothing music. When you wake up in the middle of the night, jot down any sensations or thoughts, then see if there's a pattern over several days. If you consistently notice unusual sensations, especially a pounding heart, tingling limbs, or breathlessness, it may be time to adjust your daily habits, such as reducing late-night meals or certain stimulants, like strong tea late in the evening. Don't simply label insomnia as just stress if it's new and persistent. And now, let's address the most critical and often unexpected signal, the one most people overlook entirely, yet it can be a giant neon sign for a looming health catastrophe. Fifth, climax, signal, overlooked shifts in mood and motivation. You might think mood changes are purely psychological, but your emotional state can also be a direct reflection of your body's physiological status. In the weeks before a major health event, many individuals report unexplained feelings of irritability, apathy, or sadness. They may lose interest in hobbies they once enjoyed or find themselves unusually snappy with loved ones. Others experience a growing sense of dread or an unshakable worry that something bad is about to happen. Why it matters. Studies show that certain chemical and hormonal imbalances in the body can alter one's mood, sometimes weeks before any obvious physical symptoms appear. For example, if your heart isn't pumping efficiently or you're developing an infection, it can change the way your brain processes mood-regulating chemicals. Low oxygen, subtle inflammation, or abnormal stress hormone spikes can translate into anxiety, depression, or general irritability. Potential consequences of ignoring it. Brushing off mood changes as just being cranky might cause you to miss the final red flag. It can also isolate you from friends and family at a time when you need support the most. You might begin to skip important daily routines, like gentle exercise or sensible meals, that help keep your body in balance. A real-life example. Laura, 74, was normally the life of every family gathering. But for nearly a month, she didn't feel like chatting or cooking her usual Sunday meals. She snapped at her granddaughter for a trivial reason, then felt oddly detached from her usual joyful activities. 2 weeks later, she experienced a mild stroke. Only afterward did she recall how low and unmotivated she'd felt for those weeks, an uncharacteristic shift that, in retrospect, was tied to reduced blood flow and rising blood pressure she never knew about. Your home-based step. Treat your emotional well-being like a vital sign, similar to how you might check your pulse. Notice any ongoing irritability, sinking mood, or general heaviness in your thoughts. If it lingers for more than a week, consider it a sign you need some restorative measures at home. Try light exposure in the morning, like sitting on a balcony or near a bright window for 10 minutes, do simple rhythmic tasks like knitting or coloring to calm your mind, and make an effort to stay gently connected with friends or family. Even a brief phone call can maintain an emotional lifeline. Look for small pockets of joy each day, whether it's playing with a pet, listening to music you love, or indulging in a comforting hobby. Remember, these signals aren't random inconveniences. They can be your body's early warning system, giving you time to act before a health crisis arrives in full force. If you've been noticing a combination of unusual fatigue, chest or upper body discomfort, shortness of breath, disturbed sleep, and mood shifts, don't brush them aside as mere coincidences. Simple daily self-checks can go a long way toward prevention. So, what's the big takeaway from all of this? The body rarely betrays us without warning. But it speaks in a whisper long before it shouts in an emergency. By staying alert to these subtle changes and making small, consistent adjustments to your home routines, like monitoring energy levels, keeping a symptom journal, practicing gentle exercises, and prioritizing restful sleep, you can set up your own protective barrier against sudden, major health incidents. Think of it as fortifying your personal fortress. Each small step, each mindful check, each moment of self-awareness is another brick in the wall that keeps catastrophic events at bay. In the end, you have more power than you realize. These signals aren't just reminders of what could go wrong, they're keys to taking control of what can go right. After all, real independence in your 60s, 70s, and beyond is about being proactive, spotting problems when they're still manageable instead of waiting to be rescued. So here's my challenge for you: pick at least one of these signals that resonates most with your current state, maybe it's your fluctuating moods or that stubborn fatigue, and start paying deliberate attention to it. Create a small daily habit around it. It could be as simple as taking a few minutes each day to breathe slowly and check in with your body. By doing that, you'll be investing in a stronger, safer future for yourself. Now, if you found this discussion helpful and want to learn even more about the subtle ways our bodies warn us of hidden dangers, there's plenty more to explore. Let's keep the conversation going. Think about sharing your own experiences or insights. If you've had a moment where your body tried to warn you and you realized it in hindsight, let others learn from your story. And stay curious. The more you understand these signals, the better equipped you'll be to protect yourself and live each day with confidence. Because the best way to outsmart a crisis is to see it coming before it knocks at your door.